Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The Candidates Tournament features some of the best players in the world. But today there was such violence conducted on the chessboard that a Grandmaster was eviscerated in like less than 20 moves. That is the final game of the video, timestamps in the description, but we have to start with the women's section. Now, there was no physical violence conducted today, unless the players were kicking each other under the table that I couldn't see. But the first game I have for you is Jiner versus Bibisara Assaubayeva. Was a lovely game. We had a Sicilian defense. Let me turn off the engine because this may not be the first time I'm recording this video. We have a Rossolimo Sicilian with d6, short castles, bishop to d7, rook to e1, knight to f6, and here h3, which is an interesting move. We're very quickly going out of known theory. A6, bishop back to f1, a very common idea because there's no really other place to put the bishop. If you go this way, your bishop gets trapped, and going anywhere else, you're just going to be, a consistent target. So it goes back to f1. Now we get rook to g8, which seems silly, but black has a very simple idea, and that is to just push the pawn and go and attack. d3 is now played. And now the only other games that I have in my database are h6. That's the only thing I've got. h6 is what is played. We have b4. Again, we're running out of games. The top game I do have is Ariantari versus Nordibek Abdusattora from 2023. So, still following relatively known stuff. Pawn takes, and now a3. So a double pawn sacrifice. We get b3, now knight bd2. No games found in my database on the chess. We have g5, we have d4, g4 takes, bishop takes, and now bishop to b2. And we have entered the chaos and the forest, and only one player will remain. So this rook is just open completely against the white king. Black has not got a great position because you've got a choice of castling long or leaving your king in the center. But, black's also up a pawn. So black's fine, but white is better, according to the engine. Sorry, after this move, white is better. The best move actually was to play b takes c2. To just, take the pawn, don't leave it there to be recaptured. There is now c4, targeting the center, perfectly fine move. D takes e4, knight takes e4, takes. Now the rook is in the center. We have bishop back to f5. The rook goes to e3. And now look at this, bishop c2, and queen c1 gives everything away. The better move here is queen d2, which is not easy to play because you are very much aware that there is a pin coming with the bishop. But it's fine. Queen c1 is not as ideal. Now rook to c8, and d5 gives everything away. d5 gives everything away. There's no need to rush. You're already kind of losing the thread a little bit. d5, not the correct move. Again, queen d2 is perfectly playable according to the computer. What is just opened? Anyway. Yeah, WhatsApp is trying to open. Don't know why. Anyway, knight goes out to a5. Looks silly, but there's nowhere really else to go. We get the knight dropping back to d2 to just help defend this pawn on c4. Now, rook to g4. Bishop to e5. Complete mistake. The best move here. And again, it's really difficult to just continue to say, oh, well, the best move is, whatever. h5 is preferred in this position. Instead of bishop to e5, it wants the incredible move bishop to f6. You can't take because of this pin. That's why you should have castled. You obviously can't push the pawn because I take your queen. And what it does is it kind of keeps the bishop here for a moment. What we would then get is probably rook... it wants rook c takes c4, I think. The sacrifice of the rook. Knight takes c4. Knight takes c4 with the attack on this rook. And, potentially threatening the fork. So it would be bishop takes c4, rook takes c4, and now queen d2, which you should have played several times ago. And now you can get like queen d6, which hits the bishop. Now bishop to e5 is fine, and you go down the line. So bishop to e5, not as accurate. h5 now played. Now queen b2, because you can't go to d2 anymore. Bishop h6, and what you're going to do? Your rook is borderline trapped. And if you move it, you lose the knight. So you kind of have to just play rook ae1, give up the rook and just replace it with the other one, give up the exchange completely. Bibisara now winning, knight takes c4. And look, her king is in the center, Jiner only has really to go up this. So Bibisara is given the exchange back for 2 pawns. The only thing Jiner has is to try and get at Bibisara's king. If she can do that, she might force a draw or a victory. Otherwise, she is in some serious problems over here. There are about 6 million tabs trying to open on my computer. Anyway, d6. That's what she's got, but now e6. And bishop h2 gives it all away. Again, you have here bishop f3. Which, again, I'm not as good a player as Jiner. She's a very strong player. I don't understand why this move wasn't played. Like, I don't get what she's worried about after bishop to f6. I mean, even rook f3, if you want to go this way, it is somewhat better. So, I don't know. Bishop h2 is what's played. But now queen g5, and then you just go back to e5. It's like, oops, I made a mistake. Bishop e4, I now threaten mate. You can play f4 to defend mate, but check. Beautiful move. Over here, check. You block, check. I pick up the rook thanks to the pin, and I trade the queens, and I get into a completely winning endgame. And just look at how Bibisara converts this, you know, here. She just pushed her pawn, got this nice lock. She's up 2 pawns, even though it's opposite colored bishop, she's just completely winning. She can push this to then win this, break through, and there's nothing you can do here. So we move on. Kateryna Lagno versus Tanzhongyi. I picked Tanzhongyi as my favorite for the tournament in the thing I did. And now we have an Italian. We have a classical variation of the Italian. You know, very nice stuff. We've got, you know, Queen d3 short castles. Already no games in my database. So they have played some interesting ideas here. You know, striking early, letting the king move to f1. Very bold stuff. You know, it's a new idea to play the Italian. Whenever you play king f1, it comes with certain responsibilities. You either have to, you know, play something like g3 and castle by hand, because now your rook's not in the game. Or you've got to, like, move this bishop, push up the rook, and then, you know, rook lift, baby, and get the rook in like that. Because it's not trapped in the corner. So you're down a rook for a few moves. So even though Kateryna Lagno is down to 30 minutes versus an hour 13 after king to f1, I would say she's better. For the moment, she has to act now. So she plays c6. We get pawn takes and pawn takes. Not even going backwards with the knight to keep the structure preserved. No, you have to play pawn takes. You have to keep going. Yes, there's rook to d1, but now look at this. Even though it's a mistake, I'm trading off pieces. Yes, you can take and force me backwards, which is exactly what happens. But now I've got to play like g4. Obviously, this is not hanging, because you would hang your queen. But now the king going to try and get out this way. I can play knight c7. Yes, you can play rook g1. I put my knight now on d5. Yes, you get g5, but I just move out the way to h5. And rook g4 loses the game. And it's so strange, because it seems like such a natural move. You played g4, you played rook g1, you got everything you wanted. You're moments away from crashing through. But the best move here is to play g takes. And again, I'm not as strong as these players. This seems like the first thing you calculate. Bishop hits the queen, rook is coming in, and it seems like it's a crushing position. You know, it's +1 here. I don't understand how white doesn't win on the spot. So, you know, rook g4 doesn't make sense to me. Now we have queen d7. And yes, you have h3, but now I have queen f5. And I'm just in time to cause significant counterplay. That you know, now you're forced to queen d3, but I give check. Look at that move. Look at that move. Yes, my queen is hanging. Obviously, if you take, I take with the rook. And if you take with the pawn, you lose the knight. So it's a beautiful move. We get pawn takes, now queen takes. The bishop comes back, but I take with check. Your rook comes back, but I take back. My king is safe. Yours is not. And, you know, my pieces just seem to be doing a fantastic job. And you've lost your attack against my king. I'm just going to safeguard it. Yes, you can finally start, you know, trying to activate pieces. But what do you have? Yes, you've got some light squared weaknesses, but you don't have a light squared bishop. My rook is applying pressure. My bishop is applying pressure. Eventually, my knight will get back in the game somehow. And then I just need to bring the other rook. So rook a8, not the best way to bring the rook, but that's completely fine. Queen b3, just a follow-up mistake. Rook e7, queen f3. The players are, of course, in a little bit of time pressure. Knight b4. Tanjani just making mistake after mistake. She makes a mistake on move 30 with queen b3. She makes another one on knight b4, and unfortunately, these are going to cost you. Rook d6, inaccuracy. D5, inaccuracy. I mean, Kateryna Lagno's got 40 seconds on the clock as she's approaching time control. So if she's making inaccuracies, it's fine. Tanjani's got 10 minutes. So she really had a chance here to try and defend. Rook f7 even blunders the game back to a draw. You get knight d4, and queen e4, and Tanjani is winning again. Oh my gosh. This game is chaotic. I think you're realizing that. Do you know who's going to win? I know the result of this. I still don't know who's going to win. I still think the result has changed. Tanjani was completely winning. Kind of lost the plot for a little bit. And now Kateryna Lagno, in time pressure, is blundering, and she's blundered the game first to a draw and now completely back to white. White is completely winning. You had to play queen h3 according to the engine. That was the best move to make there. Again, I can't explain this position to you at all. I don't understand it. This queen kind of sees this pawn, and I suppose this rook. I suppose the knight's coming in. I couldn't explain it to you. I suppose there's like hidden tactics in this position that somehow work out in such a way. We get rook takes c7, the sacrifice of the rook. Rook takes, and now check to pick up the rook back. So now Tanjani is completely winning. She's got a bishop for 2 pawns. But now we get rook b6. You can play b3, but check, and now I get a wait. And Tanjani is completely winning. f5. Mistake from black. Kateryna Lagno still like under 2 minutes on the clock, but we have made move 40. So she will probably gain extra time now. No, she doesn't, sorry. Queen to f7 gives away a sizable portion of Tanjani's advantage. Again, it's an interesting idea because you want to get close to the king, put pressure on the knight. You obviously can't take this. The thing is, the pawns might come and kind of barricade your king, and that is the thing. You are up on pieces, like usable pieces, but you only have 3 pawns left. So your king is going to be wide open. So queen f7 gives it away. It was liking rook takes g5 as a way to put pressure. Now there's rook f6. Queen takes d5. Losing the game back to Kateryna Lagno, who finds knight to f4. A move that simply looks impossible. It's a fork. Rook and queen. And you might say, what's the idea? I take the knight. You do take the knight. Check. And now you have an uncomfortable choice to make. And the conclusion to this game is violence personified, as we have king to g3, check, queen blocks on f3, and the incredible move g4. Sacrificing the queen back. I wish I could give it a brilliant sticker. It probably deserves one. The idea is if you take the queen, I mate you. And so, the only way to survive is to play rook to h2, give up the queen, and take the rook back, and now play this game with knight and bishop against the queen, and knight takes, and now I'm fine. And Tanjani does fight on as long as she can, but after queen e3, she's forced to resign. And so we move to the open section, where I have a barn burner of a game for you. Absolutely incredible, between 2 players who are, part of the leaders. It is Yoav Sindarov versus Praggnanandhaa Rameshbabu. Both of them winning in round 1, both making draws in round 2. We have d4, we have d5, and we have a queen's gambit declined, kind of. A very interesting kind of move order, but we get to more of a, standard position. And again, queen's gambit is always interesting to play, and it's kind of like, what do you bring? So we get this interesting cycle, where instead of taking, we push. So we get d4, and that attacks the knight. Now you can go full danger levels and take this knight. So the thing is, if you take my knight, I could probably come back. Sorry, I would take your queen. So you have to address that. So queen takes, and now the knight comes out to e4. Very nice idea. Queen f5 pins the knight to the queen. But of course, you could sacrifice the knight, or you can play, bishop to d3. We play b4 instead. Knight takes, pawn takes, check. And now the king is forced to d1. And despite all of this, Praggnanandhaa, according to the engine, is +1 and is slightly better. I don't understand anything about chess. How are you slightly better in this position? Anyway, we have d takes e3. Bishop now to d3, sacrificing a full another pawn. Queen to g6 takes. F5. Now knight to g3. F5 important because you block this, so there are no important knight discoveries. Bishop to c5. Queen to c3. Now it's about a level position. e5. Bishop c2. e4. Forcing the knight backwards. I do not understand how this position is level. Praggnanandhaa's king is just in the center of the board, waiting to be attacked. It is if Sindarov can get his pieces into the game quick enough to cause such an attack. So rook to d8, king to c1, queen to g5, rook to e1, just hanging on, defending every weakness we have. Queen e7, rook e2 now queen b4, and now the knight is under severe pressure. And we play a5. Now it gets out the way. But now the other rook is coming. Rook a6. Okay, you get the knight to d4. Blockading everything. What about queen g5? Queen g5 putting pressure back on this. Knight could be under some serious fire here in just a moment. Okay, we slide the king out the way. It's completely fine. h5. King a2. Surely fine. King has completed his run to the other side of the board. Bishop d7. Surely there is nothing that could go wrong. c5. Shouldn't have played that. It's a really difficult position, this, because there are some tactics coming. So c5 looks natural to just try and throw off the coordination somehow and, give a check or something. So it seems completely natural. So rook takes c5, not the perfect move. Now, the idea was queen b3. Probably it might be better to give this check. I don't know. Let me see in just a moment. Queen b3 is wrong. g4 surely can't be the suggested move. Anyway. So queen b3 is wrong. King slides over. Now you go in here. But I take a bishop. I sacrifice the rook for the bishop. Because you've missed something. And that is if knight takes rook. Check. Oops. So for that reason we get king b1. And so I just take. And Sindarov is up another piece. We, take. And he just absolutely wrecks Praggnanandhaa's position. And transitions into an endgame. And queen f6 wins the game. Simply because if you trade, you have 2 pawns. I have 6. Sindarov ended this game up 4 pawns. Wild stuff. Praggnanandhaa does play some wild stuff. But this was just ridiculous. So, the final game of the day was the complete and utter evisceration of one of these two players. Fabiano Caruana versus Wei. We had knight to f3, Fabi employing the ready again. Knight to f6, and now c4. Enjoying this kind of English fire the ready move order. We have c5, so asymmetrical English. So surely nothing wrong can go here. Takes, bishop to g2. Bishop to g7. Queen a4 is an interesting idea. It has been played before, but not a lot at top level. So queen a4. And what it does is, now typically you would say, well, you castle, or you play like a d3 to get the bishop out. Queen a4 poses some immediate problems. And you might say, wait, what? What do you mean immediate problems? I play knight c6. Well, now I play knight g5. Fabiano Caruana is not a patient man today. He is putting Wei under pressure immediately. He's played queen a4, he's played knight g5. He is going for Wei immediately. And it will either work or it will not. And he spent some serious time. Look at this, 30 minutes. Wei has spent 4. Wei goes back, knight b6. But I remove the knight and win a pawn. Bishop d7, and I win a second pawn. Fabiano Caruana is up 2 pawns. But now there's h6, forcing the knight back to f3 and rook to c8. And now I go to a5, and now there's bishop h3. And for the price of those 2 pawns, you now cannot castle. So, Fabi gives a check. The knight goes backwards, and he plays rook to g1. And so we have short castles from Wei. He seems to have gotten out of the woods completely. We have g4, and g4 is a very, very nasty idea from Fabiano Caruana. Down an hour on the clock, he finds a disgusting idea. Rook to c5, queen to b3. White is now better. And Fabiano Caruana here spotted, after this, that there is a move that is impossible for Wei to play. A move that is impossible. But Wei plays it anyway. Knight to b3. Knight to e5, rather. Loses the game on the spot. And that is because after takes, rook takes, Fabiano Caruana finds knight to d1 and wins the game in 19 moves. And the idea is very simple. That bishop on h3 is trapped completely. There is nothing you can do. You can move the rook. You can even sacrifice the bishop. There is nothing you can do, and Wei Yi, after 19 moves, decides he's had enough of what Fabiano Caruana has done to him and resigns the game. And so Fabiano Caruana and Javokhir Sindarov are clear and outright leaders in the open section of the FIDE candidates. The women's section, a little bit more difficult for me to tell you about because, and we can check live in the video, Divya Deshmaku versus Alexandra Goryachika, I believe it is finished. It has. It was also a Sicilian. It was also a Rossalimo. This was still going when I started recording, but it looks like it has now finished. And this game ended. Divya got a horrible structure from the Rossalimo, and she had to defend it the whole game. And she struggled to do so. She had the rook versus the knight versus the bishop. So she did have the bishop, but it was not helpful to her. White putting everything important on light squares. And eventually she managed to trade, but it was just better for white. Yes, she kind of gave away a pawn or two, but she got into a rook endgame down a pawn. And Goryachika did her utmost best and pushed and pushed and pushed. And surely she won this game, right? Surely she won this game. Completely winning. Oh, she blundered it here for a moment, did Goryachika, but Divya blundered it back into a draw. And did the players finish as a draw? Surely this position is a draw. Divya holding on for a second game in a row. Yes. Divya Deshmaku makes another draw, so it was just the two decisive results. So Bibisara and Kateryna Lagno, they are the leaders of the women's section. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed the recap. If you didn't, let me know why in the comments down below.